National Park Service actually reached out to me after our last broadcast and said, no, we went out there. We're not quite at the 70% range. It sure looks like it's beautiful out there. I mean, spring is in the air temperature-wise. Look at these numbers. 74 in D.C., 69 Gaithersburg, mid-70s around Manassas. And when we look at all of our numbers, they're into the 80s. It is definitely feeling like spring out there. And today is the beginning of spring. It does not occur until later tonight, technically. And every year, inevitably, I get this question like, hey, but why is spring at a specific minute on a given day? So I love to, this time of year, talk about the specifics. It's the spring equinox. That's what we have happening today. So we're going to talk about that for just a moment, a little explainer of what it is. But before we get into that, first, the Earth. We all know that the Earth rotates around, takes 24 hours, and that's what brings us one day. Well, at the same time, the Earth is spinning on its own axis. It's also spinning around the sun as well, and this takes approximately 365 days. It is specifically 365 days and a quarter. That's why every 4 years we have a leap year to kind of, reset that back to 365. So you have the Earth that's spinning around on its own axis. You got the Earth at the same time that's spinning around the sun. So there's a lot going on here. And in addition to all of that, the Earth itself is tilted at 23.5 degrees. Now, this is very important because if the Earth were not tilted, you look at some of the other planets that aren't, our weather would just be layered. It would not be as dynamic. It's this tilt of the Earth that gives us the jet stream and the changing patterns and all that. Okay, so the Earth is tilted. So before we get to the equinox, let's talk about seasons. We're going to use this tilt here. And first, what happens during summer, this is when the Earth in the northern hemisphere is tilted toward the sun. And so the rays of light from the sun are the strongest into the northern hemisphere. And this year, this will occur on June 20th when the Earth is tilted at most toward the sun. Now let's fast forward 6 months. We take the Earth, we're going to move it to the other side as it rotates around. Now the Earth is still tilted, as you can see here. The difference is, though, that now the rays of light from the sun are now in the southern hemisphere, and that is what constitutes our winter. And this year, that will occur on Monday, December 21st. So again, the Earth, because it's tilted as it's going around the sun twice a year, it's going to be tilted at maximum in the northern, maximum in the southern, summer and winter. Well, twice a year in that quest going around the sun, there comes a moment in which the Earth passes over and the sun is directly over the equator. And that is what we call the equinox. And today is when that occurs, the spring equinox, specifically at 11:49 p.m. tonight is when the sun will be directly over our equator. And then it happens twice, obviously, on its way back. And that will be the fall equinox, the autumnal equinox, it's also called. That's Tuesday, September 22nd. So spring officially starting today at 11:49 p.m., just eking in. If it were 12 minutes later than that, spring would officially be starting tomorrow. But there you have it. That is what the equinox is. Today is the beginning of spring. Certainly feels like spring, and it will feel like that tomorrow as well before a big cool down. We'll talk about that 7-day, guys, coming up here in just a few minutes.
So thanks for